I'm Steve Johnson, News Director for theDove TV. Check out our other videos and visit our website at thedove.us. Thanks.
Welcome back. And as you know, theDove Radio and TV is associated with the United Christian Broadcasters. And we work with a group of colleagues that are in Christian media literally around the world. We have affiliates all over the place. And the last several days, the CEO from UCB Australia, Mr. Phil Edwards, has been with us here at the Dove, looking at what we do and exchanging stories. And I thought it would be great for you to meet him and to hear what the Lord is doing through UCB Australia as they are broadcasting through over 500 radio stations to reach the people of Australia. So join me now as we talk to UCB Australia CEO, Mr. Phil Edwards. Well, today we are really honored to have in the studio with us one of our UCB colleagues, Phil Edwards, with us today from Australia. He's the Chief Executive Officer of UCB Australia, which oversees, I don't know, how many hundreds of radio stations now?
Well, we got 584. It keeps changing.
584 radio stations, and you cover a huge landmass, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Many Americans don't realize that Australia is about the same size as the mainland US.
Right.
And we only have about 24 million people in that space. So it's, you know, it's some places you can go. If you go over into Western Australia, it's a space about the size of a third of the mainland US. So if you draw a line a third of the way down,
yeah,
chop all that off, and there's only 2-3 million people in that space. So
wow.
It's, yeah, it's different.
All right. Well, tell us how it all started, because it really started with one radio station, and here you are, 500 and something radio stations later, and growing.
Yeah. Yeah, we've celebrated 22 years this year of being in ministry in Australia, and it started out with our equivalent to your non-com, non-commercial stations, community radio, where UCB actually wasn't a broadcaster. But the only opportunity for us to broadcast in Australia was to help local groups get started. And so we did that for a period of time. And there's about 30 broadcasters around the country that are still, you know, independent entities today doing their thing, that we're kind of brothers in arms today. It's not so much a parent-child relationship anymore. They've grown up. Yeah. And so we did that for a period of time. But in 1999, so what is that, 14, going on 15 years ago, we started with the very first station on the air in a little town called Beaudesert, which is near Brisbane, about half an hour out of the outskirts of Brisbane. And it's just grown from there, and it's gone like crazy. And you know, our dream is very much Christian radio. These days we say Christian media, because the landscape's changing for every Australian. And that means we go into places that are out of the way, outback, very remote places, through to the big cities like Sydney and Melbourne.
How's the response been?
It's been fantastic. You know, we're really heartened by the amount of people that stand with us and say, you know, we get it. We understand what you're trying to do. We love what you're trying to do, and we're right behind you. And you know, we're largely listener supported. We're very much like you guys. We have a passionate group of people behind us who help us, you know, financially, in prayer, through doing practical things, and you know, speaking well of us in the community.
Wow. So how would you gauge the spiritual climate of Australia as a whole?
Yeah, it's an interesting place, Australia. I mean, we have a rich Christian heritage. You know, there are some similarities to the story of the United States. But I think Australia is a much more secular nation than the US is. You know, the secularism is pretty rife here, but to a degree, Christianity is worn much more on your sleeve, my impression, here in the US. And it's probably a lot more political here in the US as well, as far as Christianity is concerned. But in Australia, it's quite secular. There's a lot going on at the moment that is very strongly against the church, and I think a lot of that is the church hasn't done itself any favours. There's a royal commission or an inquiry going on at the moment into abuse in institutions, and really it was driven by some revelations of some pretty bad things that the church has done over the years. But it's not just in the church. There are other organisations too, and you know, it's really been raked through the mud just at the moment. And I think it's a real wake-up call for Christians to say, are we, as we would say, fair dinkum,
right,
about following Jesus, or are we just cruising along in this religious thing? And in some ways, it's a tough time for the church in Australia.
Do you battle the same social issues that we battle? Because you seem to be a little bit more liberal in those areas. We're now starting to battle some of the things that already are law there in Australia. Maybe you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, many of the same battles are going on. I think if you take the same-sex situation right now, we were very fortunate that the former, in fact, no, it was 2 governments ago, John Howard was the Prime Minister. They changed and ratified the definition of marriage as being between a man and a woman, and they clarified that fact because it had, I guess, been kind of assumed that would be the case, but they clarified that. And at the moment we have a conservative government that is saying, no, we're not wanting to make any changes, which is a good thing, but we have this onslaught of other people who just keep bringing it back and back and back. And I think they'll just keep on pushing until they get there. So there's that. There's of course the abortion issue is a very big issue around drugs and other things. So there are some people that are pretty passionately pushing these issues in Australia, and thankfully we've been able to hold back on some of them. But it's relentless.
Well, the other day you're a Commonwealth, and what are your restrictions of what you can or cannot say on the air? Is it as tough as it is in England, say?
I'm not quite familiar with the English situation as much as I perhaps could be to make a comment, but from what I understand, we can get away with a little bit more. There were some laws in Victoria, state of Australia, that were introduced probably 5 or 6 years ago around anti-vilification. And they were doomed to fail right from the outset. Right. And they've actually since been changed, where there were some Muslim guys who went in to a Christian meeting. It was a public meeting, but it was in a church. It wasn't being broadcast or otherwise, but it was in context. The comments were accurate, but they said some things that these guys took umbrage to, and they had gone there specifically to go and pick up whether anything bad was being said. And these 2 guys, we know them as the 2 Dannies, they were two pastors, got dragged through the courts. It went on for years and years, and it was just ludicrous. Wow. Thankfully that law has changed, but we still need to be careful about what we say and do.
On the other hand, you've experienced some really move of God, haven't you? You've seen some really terrific things come from your country. I'm thinking Hillsong, which everybody is familiar with. I mean, that's fairly significant.
It is a significant thing, both in Australia and around the world. And again, the media likes to sort of poke fun at them and have a field day with them. But you see a lot of the top level stuff, but you don't see a lot of the stuff that they do. They do some really quite big things in the community around community care and supporting other things that are going on. But it's quite a phenomenon.
Now, do you get involved in community efforts yourself? Do you, is a ministry with all those outlets, do you serve communities other than just broadcasting to them? Do you get involved in food drives or?
Not directly, but we do support other works that are going on in the community. There's a great saying of kind of stick to your knitting. So we know that we're good at broadcasting. We know other people are good at that kind of thing, and we'll get in alongside them where we can. What's
the future? What's God telling you? I mean, here you've been CEO not quite a year.
Well, no, 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
You're brand new as a leader of the pack. Yeah. What's God telling you?
I'm very much seeking at the moment. Of course, as we all know, technology is changing. We've been a radio broadcaster and remain a radio broadcaster. We've seen great growth in that area over the last 14, 15 years. But I'm very interested to see what you guys are doing here with television and radio.
Well, you got our television guy, Michael Brown.
Well, that's right. And he's a good guy, Mike. He's there working with us now. Yeah. He's probably watching us on YouTube. So hey, Mike. But I see very much video is a key part of what we're doing going forward as we use media as a means of communicating the hope and truth that there is in Jesus Christ, and the internet, and we do some print publication as well in Australia.
You do the Word for Today?
We do, yeah. We do 2 versions.
Two. You do a youth version?
We do a youth version, that's right.
And how many are you distributing now?
In print, about 130, 140,000 copies a quarter.
Wow.
And then, of course, people can get it online in our app. We have an app, by the way, if you want to go download it and listen to radio in Australia. Just search UCB Vision Radio at the App Store. It's on all the platforms, but you won't be able to get the Word for Today content here in America because we've geo-blocked you.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the rights for the States. But if you want to listen to radio in Australia, it's go do that.
So, is there a hunger? Yeah, you feel a spiritual hunger in Australia?
Yeah. As much as I said, Australia is a secular nation, everywhere you go, people are hungry. And if you're real with people, then that is uncovered fairly quickly. And I think there is a very deep spiritual hunger. People are searching for all sorts of things. Often they're searching in the wrong places. And we want to be there in the marketplace. And we hear so many stories of people who have stumbled across us, on the dial, and that some of them have come to Christ, and others say, I want more information about this. I'm not quite sure what this is all about. But we just aim to be real people on the air, genuine believers in Christ, talking about real issues and real things that affect us all.
We've done some surveys here, as you know, Phil, and what we found out, apologetics and counseling and Bible teaching seem to be the big three.
Yeah.
Now, music plays a part of that, but when people are hurting, it's amazing how God will match one of those programs with their need at the right time, and you probably experience that too.
Yeah, we do, and I think there are some similarities in what we do. Apologetics is a big part of who we are, and practical application of helping you understand what the Bible says. How do you actually put that into practice today? And you're right, music does play a part. It's music kind of sets the tone. It's very emotional or emotive. And especially when there's a message in the music, we're very careful about what we put on the air. But people are searching for answers, and they're not going to find it in the mainstream media. And we want to be there as a unique, different voice.
Well, it's amazing. 500 and something radio stations, and probably soon to push over the 600 mark. Now, also your executive director, Ian Werby, is working in the Asia Pacific area. Give us a quick update on that.
Yeah, we're working with a number of groups in the Asia Pacific, most closely with Papua New Guinea, which is just above Australia, and it's, I guess, third world is a good way to describe it. It's not an advanced society. In many ways, and we're up there, and it's sometimes doing things with cable ties. And he came back with a great story. They were up there, and they were putting on these low-powered translator stations for the main station, which is in Wewak in the north of Papua New Guinea. And they needed some a long steel pole, and they're going, well, we don't have any of that. We can't get any of that, but give us 10 minutes. So they went away off into the jungle. And they came back with these long poles of bamboo, and they said, "Will this do?" And so we've got the photos of these guys with
putting their
antennas stuck up on bamboo poles, and they needed a ladder, and we don't have a ladder, and they said, well, just a minute, and off they went. They cut some more, and they made a ladder. I'm sure it didn't meet the workplace health and safety standards that we might have in Australia.
We call it OSHA over here.
It's really good working at that grassroots level. So we're working with them. We're doing some working to get the Word for Today into Nepal, and there are so many opportunities in Nepal right now because a number of years ago they transitioned to being a secular nation. So you can go in there now and openly declare the gospel. And distribute Christian materials, and we're working with some people there, the pastor of a group of churches who buys time on the national broadcaster every week, and alongside that looking to publish the Word for Today in that country.
Well, Phil, you're a delight. Thank you for coming by and spending a little time with us here in America, and see how we do it here at the Dove. And we'll be watching with great anticipation what God's going to do with you and with Michael and your whole team there in the future when you get more involved in video.
Yeah. And can I just say to your viewers and listeners, come on down to Australia.
All right,
it's a great place to be.
Oh, there you go. All right. We'll see you next time.